friends, I'm back to read you your story today. Before we get started on our story, I would like to show you my small groups activity. This is my coffee filter, all dry, and it looks like the planet Earth. The green is the land, and the blue is the water. All the oceans, the seas, and the lakes. And that's a neat idea. Very nice. And if any of you did this project at home, I'd love to see it in your portfolios. So today we are going to read a story about Curious George. Now, if any of you ever watched the cartoon Curious George or read any of the books about him, sometimes he gets himself into a little bit of trouble. He doesn't mean to, but it just happens. So this story is called Curious George Plants a Tree. Now, Mrs. Hannah's question yesterday of the day was, have you ever planted a tree? And then today being Earth Day, I thought this would be the perfect story to read to you. The author and the illustrator for this book are Margret and H. Rays. Curious George Plants a Tree. And I did see one of our friends yesterday planted a tree, but gave me a scary surprise in the picture. I was not expecting to see a snake. Mrs. Gary is so scared of snakes. You shouldn't be though, but I am. And I was so scared when I saw that. But nice job planting a tree or plant. George was a good little monkey and always was very curious. Today was a good day to be curious. The man with the yellow hat was taking George to the Science Museum. The museum was one of George's favorite places to go, and there was always something new to see and interesting to learn. So there's Curious George and the man in the yellow hat, and they are going to the Science Museum. Often there was a special exhibit. George wanted to know what it was for today, but first he had to make his favorite museum stops. The rocket room, the mirror maze, and the butterfly space. So there's the rocket room, the mirror maze. That's only one Curious George in there. It looks like there's 4 of him. And then the butterflies. Finally, George and his friend made it to the special exhibits room. The sign read, "How you can take care of our planet." George learned many things. How all people, animals, plants, air, and water on the planet make up the environment. How trees keep the air clean. And how people can help protect the environment from pollution and too much trash. So there's that big sign. How you can take care of our planet. And we have some recycling going on over here. And all these pictures over here. It explains that trees give off oxygen. And oxygen is what we use to breathe. Now when we exhale, we give off carbon dioxide, and which trees and plants use to survive. So the trees and the plants help us survive, and then we help the trees and plants survive. George had a great time and didn't get into any trouble as usual. So that was good. As he and his friend were leaving, they bumped into the museum director. So there they are leaving, and he didn't get in any trouble. And here he literally bumped right into the museum director. Dr. Lee looked happy to see him. "How is my best monkey visitor?" Dr. Lee George asked. "I'm so glad I ran into you. I wanted to tell you that we are having a Green Day rally tomorrow at the park." George was curious. Whatever a rally was, he was sure that the park was a good place to do it. "We're going to plant a truckload of trees and collect used paper for recycling," Dr. Lee explained. We didn't have much time to advertise, but we need lots of volunteers. How would you like to help out?" There was nothing that George liked better than to help out. "What a great idea," the man agreed. "We'll be there." So here they are, getting invited to go help. It says right here, "Please join us, Green Day rally in the park tomorrow. Plant trees and recycle paper." And then over here, it's another picture, and it's showing all the trees that have to be planted tomorrow. That night, George was ready to do his part for the recycling drive. He gathered every newspaper in the house. He stacked old mail on top of the papers. He piled empty cardboard boxes and food cartons on top of that. What a heap! What more could he add, he thought. George scratched his head. Then he took several books off his bedroom shelf. I don't know if that's going to be a good idea, George. Here he is stacking stuff here, and then, scratching his head, he sees those books. Just as George was about to add them to his recycling pile, someone lifted the books right out of his hands. "Not so fast, George," said the man. "These books are made out of paper, all right, but you can read and enjoy them many times, and when you're done, you can donate them to other kids or your library. Reusing is just as important as recycling." So there's his friend. Took the books away from George. George thought he was doing a good thing, but you should not throw away your books. The next morning, George and his friends set out for the park with their wagon of neatly stacked paper. Suddenly, the man stopped and said, "I forgot my gardening gloves. Go on without me, George, and I'll be there soon." As George walked down the street, he spotted several newspapers lying about on his neighbor's front stoops. George had an idea. He had lots of room in his wagon. He could recycle all of those newspapers. Do you think that's a good idea? Let's see. So there's his friend. He forgot his gloves. And there is George in his wagon, and he is collecting these newspapers. And the newspapers were not the only things he could recycle. He noticed a stack of paper cups sitting on a table under a tree. Into the wagon they went. So did a pile of magazines, and a heap of papers left on the sidewalk. Wait to see where the cups came from. Somebody was setting up a lemonade stand and he didn't know, and he took the cups. And this is a magazine stand, and he took the magazines. And over here, someone is moving, and these are their important files. He thought they were to be recycled, so he took them. George was happy with his great load. At the park, he found Dr. Lee standing under a big banner. "Good morning, George," said Dr. Lee. "I'm so glad you came and brought all of your friends. We need lots of help to get the job done." George turned around. He was surprised to see so many faces, but they did not look very helpful. They looked angry. Poor George. He took all that stuff. He didn't realize he wasn't supposed to. And all of those people are chasing him to get their stuff back. The man with the yellow hat arrived just in time. He explained to their neighbors that George was gathering paper for a good cause. They were no longer mad. They even stayed to help plant all those trees. Remember that truckload of trees? All of those people, they stayed and helped. "George, you saved our Green Day," Dr. Lee said with gratitude. "These trees will provide fresher air, and each summer we'll have more shade, which means we'll use less water to keep the grass green." "Thank you." Being a monkey, George had known all along how important trees were. Why do you think George knows how important trees are? Because George is a monkey and he loves hanging in trees. Well, that is a cute story. Now, I thought something else that I would show you on this book. I know some of you already know how to do this, but if some of you don't, then here you go. Right on the back here it says 6 steps for planting a tree. Step 1, dig a hole. Step 2, remove the burlap from the root ball and stand tree in the hole. Step 3, fill in dirt, tamping lightly as you go. Step 4, put stakes around the tree. That holds a tree up so it doesn't bend over, especially if it's windy. Step 5, you must water your plants and your trees. And step 6, mulch. You have to put mulch around them to keep it moist. So there you go, friends. Curious George planted a tree on our Earth Day. It's nice to see you, and I hope you enjoyed your small groups project. And I will see you again tomorrow. Love you and have a great day.